Welcome back to another episode of the Great Movie Pod. I am one of your hosts, Noah, and this is
Caleb.
how's it
Some
going?
call me
The dude. Yeah, this is a Halloween episode. It will come out on Halloween, so we decided we'd dress up. I love it. You got the White Russian. Have you ever been able to do a Jeff Bridges impression?
Well, man, his voice is so high.
That's good. I'm the dude, man. The dude abides. Yeah.
Guys, not Mr. Lebowski, but the dude, man.
El Duderino. I love that. And then, you probably can't see me on my screen at all. I'm probably invisible because that's how it happens. But I'm Waldo.
I feel like I'm talking to the Invisible Man at this point.
Yes, Invisible Man. Good segue. This episode is obviously we said a Halloween episode, so we decided to talk monsters, and not just any monsters, but the typical Halloween monsters that you think of when you think of Halloween, like Frankenstein, the Wolf Man, the Invisible Man. I think we're even got King Kong in the mix. It's not going to be your typical how we've done it in the past where we have like honorable mentions and a top five. We just kind of wanted to go through monster by monster and kind of give the hits, like some of the best movies, maybe some of the worst movies that have to do with each monster. So I'm excited. Are you excited about this? I'm pretty excited about this
No, I
topic.
am because I it's sort of funny when we start talking about Halloween. I don't care as much about like the big horror stuff where it's like people trying to make like I know people love them, that's great, but like the Halloween movies or the Nightmare on Elm Street movies,
Yeah.
all these Saw, all these different movies, it's gone down a different path. I like the movies that like scare you, but like they have a thriller element or like a mystery or something that makes you think a little bit, and also is uncomfortable. And obviously, these old monster movies are like they're not anything like the redone versions and everything. But no, I'm excited because it's Halloween, man.
Yeah.
It's
It's a
awesome.
great topic. So I figured that we'd start out with one of my favorites, The Mummy. Um,
Yes.
there's been several iterations of The Mummy, including the newest one, which was terrible. That I'll throw that out there as like an awful
That was the Tom
Tom
Cruise
Cruise
one
and
you're talking
Russell
about. Yeah.
Crowe and
I tell you what, though, to interrupt, I'm sorry. Those guys don't make a lot of bad movies. So for those two
yeah.
guys to converge and use like literally a universal like monster movie, and that just doesn't quite work. And I don't know why, but it
Yeah,
is what it is.
yeah. And they tried to, that was going to be one of the first movies in they tried to start like a universal cinematic universe with these monsters.
Mhm.
And they have since bailed on that because of this, that, and the other. And it's kind of sad because that was like the first iteration of what they hoped would be like an MCU of Halloween characters. And it just failed.
Well, and they actually had Ryan Gosling agreed to do, was it to do one of them,
Yeah.
and then they eventually replaced him, and he's now still slated as an executive producer. So I don't know, maybe it'll
And
happen,
they
but
I believe they had Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man.
that would
Um
make
yeah,
cool.
they did a whole photo shoot actually to announce it. They actually had all of the actors that were going to be the stars of the movies in a photo, and that's how they announced it. They were like coming soon, and it was like all of these heavy hitters coming into the universe,
Yeah.
and then it just got scrapped.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think
It could have been one of those things where in the modern era we've talked about this, where the what it cost was 200 million and it only made 300 million, so
yeah.
they consider it a flop. But where it's like in the modern era they just expect you to always make 10 times what it cost you to make, and maybe it just wasn't that.
I think part of it too was that movie flopped, and then it was like right in between like right after that the whole Johnny Depp scandal thing happened, and they were like, "Well, we can't like do movies with this guy because everyone's dropping him," and then now he's coming back, so that's cool, but like they just I think part of that was also that, and then yeah, like Ryan Gosling was in there, I'm pretty sure, and him being in there, like he's got all these big movies now, so like maybe he was just wanting to tie down to other projects and didn't want to do like a whole cinematic universe. I don't know, but there was yeah, that got scrapped. So shout out to the probably the worst Mummy movie, but I'd like to highlight some of my favorites, and there's only a couple that I've seen, but one of my favorites is from 1959. It's just called The Mummy, and Christopher Lee plays the Mummy, and it's also got
The
yeah,
legend, Christopher
and
Lee.
it,
Let's give him his
give him
flowers
his
a little bit.
flowers. Yeah, yeah, and it's also got Peter Cushing, who did like Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee combined to make like 20 to 30 of these monster movies.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like when you go down the Boris Karloff Wikipedia page. It's like how many of these can you kind of like? And like obviously we weren't around for that, but it's amazing how many monster movies they created from like the mid 30s to like the mid 50s, and like now we get like one or two a year, and then it was just like everywhere. Is pretty incredible.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, speaking of Boris Karloff, he did Who's the Mummy, where he played the mummy. So these just how would you feel to get typecast as a creepy monster? Like that dude is just like he played the monster of some kind in like almost every movie he was in. Like
Yeah.
how would you feel as an actor to get typecast in that kind of a role?
You figure a lot of these, being typecast as a monster aside, but like so many actors are typecast, whether it's romantic comedy or, like they do serious stuff and no one can ever believe them as like playing a sports star, playing or whatever. And it's like, I think it's really more rare to find an actor that can successfully bridge in between the
Yeah,
genres. And it's sometimes the force of personality. So you have like a Harrison Ford who can be in a fantasy space opera thriller thing, and then he can be like a scientist in South America in the Mosquito Coast, and then he can be in a western like
yeah,
but like so that's a force of personality in terms of like he just is what he is. But like sometimes you just get into that role and it's like you're a comedian, you can never do drama, or of course every comedian thinks they can do a drama now, and it's like I don't think wow.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, getting back to the mummy real quick before we go on to other, you have to talk about the iconic trilogy from starting off with the first one in 1999, Brendan Fraser's The Mummy.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, those are so fun. I mean, the cast is incredible. Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, like one of my favorite kind of
Uh,
characters.
The Rock is in one of them, and Jet Li is in one of them.
Yeah, yeah, and they also star one of my favorite character actors, John Hannah.
He's great.
He's
He's so
so
good.
good in anything he's
Yeah,
in. He's just so fun, so expressive. I don't. It's people from that part of the world. I believe he's Scottish,
English,
English,
Scottish,
Scottish. Yeah,
something. Now I'm not saying y'all sound the same because seeing him in a movie, his accent might be different than him in like real life kind of accent. I don't. He has a British Isle sort of a thing, but I don't know where he's from
yeah.
actually.
Okay. It said he went to the Royal Scottish Academy of Drama in Glasgow. So even if he's not Scottish, he went to school in Scotland, which is like Scotland, Scottish adjacent. You spend enough time that your accent got muddled.
Yep.
But The Mummy, like that is that is a movie that like every I don't know every like maybe 2 years or so like I rewatch all three. Like the third one is definitely even though it's got Jet Li, it's definitely the weakest. But like the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
two are so good. Like that is like when they were saying they were going to remake The Mummy with Tom Cruise, I was like, why? Just make a fourth one with Brendan Fraser. I think everyone would like that now. Like if they were like, okay,
Well,
we're going to do
well,
that.
I think. Well, that's what I think. I think because he went into this without getting into a huge aside about Brendan, like, and he actually lives not far from where I live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he lives west of here by like an hour or so. He has a little horse
That's
farm, and
awesome.
he I guess to part of I don't want to say therapy because whatever, but like part of his getting through what he was going through was like having horses and having the kids and his wife. And so he bought a little farm west of here, but like an hour-ish or so. And when he got his like sort of renewal of his career or whatever with The Whale, which he won the Oscar for, there's a huge outcry for him to be in a fourth movie. And granted, one of the things that he was dealing with was he actually had a lot of injuries from doing his own stunts, and so it was a combination of that with other stuff. But like, so it would be interesting to see him do another Mummy movie, but like maybe him having a stunt double occasion a little bit more. That way, he's getting on in age.
Yeah.
It's been the last movie was in 2008, so we're talking 13-ish years since his last one. So it'd be cool to see another one because those movies. What was great about them, they had adventure, they're the romantic aspect,
Comedy.
it was a period piece, and then they had obviously great music and the action sequences, but it was also they were cool with like bordering with and playing with like the campiness of it,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
just having fun. The audiences went along with it because they knew they're just having fun with this.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to have a fourth. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to
I
happen.
think it might, especially in a world of like reboots and sequels and like
Oh
money
yeah.
grabs. Like Brendan Fraser seems to just be. I mean, part of it was the fact that he was like not in Hollywood for a while, but like he seems when he does movies to be kind of like selective as to like what he does as far as projects go. Even like back in the day, I feel like he was more select. Like he did like interesting movies. If he liked it, like he did, like George of the Jungle is such a wild like. And then they were like, "Hey, you want to come back for a sequel?" And he said no, and they like recast him. And so it's like he's very selective. So I think like if they did do a fourth one, it would be good. I think
Yeah.
it would be a good script. I think it would be really interesting to just like introduce that character to a whole new generation of people
Mhm.
because there's kids now, like obviously they're probably watching it on streaming somewhere, but when a new movie comes out, there's a whole new generation of fans that like go back to the original source to like learn where this comes from. And that's why like things like Indiana Jones, like it gets a little goofy with the aliens, but like just they could keep doing those and I'd be so happy. Like I don't care if they're goofy because it's Indiana Jones. It's like I don't care if you're using CGI, like the de-aging stuff. That's fine. It's Indiana Jones. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like there is some same with Star Wars. Like there is stuff that like, gets a little wonky, gets a little hokey. Maybe the characters aren't as good or whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's Star Wars, and every time a new Star Wars project comes out, young kids are going, "Where does this start?" And then they go back to the old stuff.
Well, what's interesting, well, two things. One, I just started watching a month or so ago the first Raiders of the Lost Ark with
Ah,
your youngest
yeah,
brother.
yeah, yeah.
And so, and then I just saw like a report, like whatever, but like the report was talking about how this generation, the younger generation here, whatever they're going to be called, they are less impressed with the Iron Man CGI, whatever, and they're very much about going back to the original. It's someone walking on the
Oh,
sand rather than
practical
someone
effects.
walking
Yeah,
in. They don't care about someone walking in a studio and adding sand to it. They want to see the thing.
yeah,
And so I think because of the oversaturation of all the CGI stuff, they're going to love that kind of like in The Mummy, where, yeah, there's some CGI, of course, but a lot of it's just like it's a set.
yeah.
And you know, I'm looking forward to that because I love that way more. CGI is great, but like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the return of practical effects. And I think there's a lot of directors that are doing that now too. There's a big movement to do more practical effects, to take away the green screen element because it's so oversaturated and the market is like, let's just throw out CGI slop because it'll make millions of dollars and we don't have
yeah,
to do like the one person and I know you maybe not a huge fan, but maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you don't like this movie. But like the one person that I think is innovative with CGI is James Cameron. Like the Avatar movies, like he does something with the CGI element that's different than like Marvel just like, all right, we don't want to pay this actor, so we're just going to CGI this random person in the background. Like James Cameron is like he's trying to like do this cool like motion capture suits underwater or in the air, and like he's waited for years to do sequels because the technology wasn't there for what his vision was. And so like there are filmmakers like that who are kind of elevating the CGI platform, but most studios are just, where can we cut corners?
yeah.
Where can we stop the pay? Where does the buck cheapen?
Yeah. No, I actually don't have like a problem with Cameron so much as I mean, this is the guy that did Terminator and all these other great
I'll
movies.
be back.
So yeah. So I don't have a problem with him so much. It's more that I didn't think the story was super solid for a film. It just seemed like because I write horror, sci-fi, fantasy, post-apocalyptic stuff. I love all the genres, but I felt like, okay, here's a fantasy that he's doing, or sci-fi, if you want to call it that. And there's so many amazing writers that could come up with something really, really cool. And the storyline, I haven't seen the sequels or whatever, but like this for the original, it was like so generic. It was like, okay, so basically he had an idea and he wrote it on a napkin and thought he was clever, and there's a whole lot of great authors out there that could have like taken something and created it. And then Cameron could have come in with his amazing CGI and done something cool with it. But that's neither here nor there, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
I do want to add about we're talking about the mummy stuff. So, um, it was kind of interesting. So, like every time, like I do deep dives on everything. It doesn't matter what it is. And one thing I found about the mummy was that whereas, and we'll get more into this with the other monsters, but like with Dracula, with other monsters, there's like a long history of like this like legend and monster and all that, but there wasn't with the mummy. So it was a film that it was released in 1932, the original, and what prompted the mummy was actually 10-ish years earlier they discovered the tomb of King Tut. And so in the news it was taking everyone's interest, and there was headlining in papers. And so the creators of the movie were like, well, wait, what if there was a mummy? Because there at the time of King Tut's tomb, there was also the rumor that there was a curse put on the people that discovered the tomb.
okay.
And so the idea of a vampire, or their idea of what they go back centuries and centuries, but the mummy doesn't. They took something that was actually kind of in the news and they turned it into a monster movie.
That's fascinating.
But it's the only one out of the group. That was the only one that they actually was that they turned it into something that was just in the news. And then, oh, we'll make a movie out of it, make it scary, and it worked.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting. So moving on from the mummy, we talked a little bit about some of the good, some of the bad. I you had told me you didn't have too much on this character, but I have the Invisible Man on my list specifically because I want to talk about the what I think is one of the better remakes to have come out about monsters. And I guess when you have a character, you can't really call it a remake. It's more so a reinvention because there's so many movies that have like their own take. It's not necessarily like this is the original, we're remaking this specific film, I feel like. You're more so remaking you're like retouching on an original idea.
Mhm.
But the from 2020, The Invisible Man, I
Oh,
saw
cool.
it in theaters. It stars Elizabeth Moss, and it's directed by the guy who wrote the original Saw film, which, not everyone's cup of tea, but as far as the horror genre goes, a lot of people love the OG Saw. And the film, instead of like the weird scientist angle, the plot of the movie is a woman is in an abusive relationship with her husband, and he seemingly kills himself and she inherits his fortune. However, she's convinced he's not actually dead and he's haunting her. And he's the Invisible Man. And so it's a wild modern take on a classic villain because he was so abusive that he like found a way to become the Invisible Man to haunt her even though everyone is convinced she's crazy,
Mhm.
which just is an amazing take on a classic creature monster that has been done 100 times, that has no like that has not had a modern do up. They tried the modern mummy and it like failed. They've tried modern versions of Frankenstein all the time, and it ends up when they do the best versions, they have to go back to it's a period piece. Same with Dracula. They've tried modern Dracula pieces, not necessarily, and we talk about that in a little bit, but not necessarily to any success when they do the modernized versions of these characters. But this one worked really well, and I finished the film like edge of my seat. It was very suspenseful. Like the whole movie, you're like, is she crazy? Like they paint it so that you're right along with her friends. Like, is she crazy? Is this guy still alive? What the heck is going on? And the payoff is great. Like the whole movie, I really enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, from 2020, The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss, really good.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those the original Monster movie from, again, is like 33 or 34 or something, 1933, 34.
33, yes.
33, yeah. Claude, yeah. I, to me, it like, and it wasn't that I didn't want to talk about it necessarily. It was more that when I was thinking about monsters, I didn't like put that into turning him into a monster. So like, I don't know, like to me, it felt like that was like something that happened to a person rather than like, I don't know. It almost doesn't qualify as a monster for
So
me.
for me, I will counter that by saying the plot of the original movie is a scientist who figures out a way to become invisible, and doing that
Right.
makes him murderously insane.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting take on like the monster is inside of you, not necessarily like, you're growing hair or you're disfigured, more so like you have come in contact with the inner monster that has been unleashed by whatever you have done, and it's more like a body horror kind of feel than it is like a
Yeah. Right. It just struck me, and I didn't do any research on this at all, but it just struck me like maybe in our list we should include the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde character monster, because it is a monster when he turns into the like I
Well,
said, it's been so long since I
going back to that failure of a mummy movie. Russell Crowe plays Dr. Hyde, and
yeah
he was supposed to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like in that universe. And because that
yeah,
movie is so terrible, like it never really paid off that they could do that.
and they've tried to they've put that into movies before, and I don't know if it was just like those particular movies didn't quite work.
There was an amazing Broadway musical about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That was very well done. Yeah. I don't know.
But
Maybe it's just a hard subject to tackle because
yeah,
like it's because he's a monster, but I feel like I feel with more like mental health, like people talking about mental health, I feel like more people think that maybe Jekyll and Hyde is like less of a monster and more of like an allegory for like people's like actual mind of like you have
well, that's
to.
in the modern
Well,
era,
yeah,
I
no, that's what I'm
suppose.
saying, but that's probably why they don't do it now, is because
Well,
it's
but I mean, they've really, well, okay. So again, we'll put the caveat that we hadn't even put this on the list that
no,
we were going to talk
no.
about, but like it just came into my mind. I'm like that, and maybe you can look that up. When was that? When was that published?
Let me see. I'll look it
Yeah.
up.
But like there could be some version that we don't like. We're not thinking about from the 40s or 50s or whatever, but like in the modern era, from like the 80s till now.
Robert Louis Stevenson wrote
1885.
put it
I don't
in
know.
85, yes.
What?
Published. Good job. This was not planned. We didn't-
No,
'86.
the audience, I collect old books, and so somehow that in my head I was like, that sounds like the right date, and it
Yes,
was
it
kind of.
was. It was.
So maybe there's some movie somewhere in the 40s, 50s, 60s that we don't know about, we haven't seen, that really does it well. And yeah, like you said, in the modern audiences, like,
Well, this one,
or
this
not the
one,
audience.
this one might be good. I'll have to watch this one at some point. It's on HBO. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1941. Spencer Tracy plays Dr. Jekyll, and Ingrid
Okay.
Bergman plays Ivy.
Oh, Ingrid,
Yeah, and Lana Turner is in it as well.
she's
Um,
hot.
Directed by Victor Fleming, who did The Wizard of Oz. Well, that could be something
Well,
fantastic.
we might have just discovered a whole nother monster movie.
It's on HBO. I'm gonna see if I'll get my wife to watch it with me because it's got Ingrid
Yeah.
Bergman and she loves Ingrid Bergman.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
That's
awesome. Yeah.
great. Yeah, 1941, and it's about 2 hours long.
Which is unusual back in the day
Yeah,
because
it's an hour and 53
for
minutes.
the audience that doesn't know, like the original, I actually got the original, like a movie set of the original monster movie. So it has the Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, all the big hits, and they're all like an hour and 10 minutes, hour
Mm,
and 15 minutes. They didn't make super long movies back then, so a 2 hour movie in 1940 whatever is pretty. Well, I don't know what point they started making longer movies. I guess somewhere in the mid to late 40s, but it wasn't a lot of that going on in like the 30s at all.
correct. Well, and that's pretty much the only time that they've made them. They did a weird someone in 2023 supposedly someone did a movie called Dr. Jekyll where Eddie Izzard played Jekyll.
Oh yeah, I saw that actually.
Uh
I'm a huge fan of Eddie Izzard.
yeah, Eddie Izzard rocks.
He's one of my first and most favorite stand-up comedians.
Yeah. The original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 7.6 on IMDb. So that must be at least good. It's an hour and 38 minutes. It came out in 1931. It's also on HBO. Looks interesting. I don't know. I'm probably going to watch the Spencer Tracy one. That sounds really interesting. But yeah, okay. So there have only you are right though because there have only been like 3 iterations of that monster at all. They've only had those
Kept,
3.
yeah, they kept inserting the character into other
Well, that's
movies.
like Van Helsing. They did the really cool, really fun, kind of stupid Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman
Yeah, and Kate
and Kate
Beckinsale.
Beckinsale. Yeah, yeah, and that was cool. But like Van Helsing is really just put into Dracula movies and not made his own guy.
Well, also, in the I would say what is it, mid to late '90s, they did a movie called The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Oh,
where they
yeah,
had like Alan Quartermain and Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and da 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 da. And it, like as a movie, it didn't work because I think at the time most people that were watching movies were like, "Huh? Like what is?" I think the biggest problem is like Alan Quartermain is a really cool character, but like it just wasn't known. And that came out, I think, when I was in college, and like me and my college buddies loved movies, but most of my friends were like, "Who? Who's Alan Quartermain? Who is?" Because I remember I really loved the Alan Quartermain movies that were starring Richard Chamberlain back in the '80s, but they weren't giant hits. It was kind of like the studios were trying to ride the wave of Indiana Jones.
yeah,
And they were like, what's another explorer who's savvy and who's photogenic and who we could make an adventure movie with? And then they came up with Alan Quartermain, and it worked to a degree. I liked it because I liked anything as a kid that was an adventure. And then there's
yeah.
an Africa, and James Earl Jones was in one of those movies, and he had a giant axe, and he was kicking people's whatever. And yeah, it was. I liked them way more than most people did.
Heck
But
yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, so Invisible Man, we actually got quite a bit on the Invisible Man
yeah,
after having like nothing, which is cool. Another one that I don't have a ton on, but I really love the original is The Wolf Man.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
The original Wolfman is I think one of the greatest like I'm trying to think of the one of the greatest monster movies of all time and I rewatched I well not rewatched but I watched it for the first time last year and it still holds up. Like it's like obviously like the
it's a good movie.
like it stars Claude Rains, which off the bat, that dude is amazing. Casablanca, we mentioned him already for the Invisible Man. I don't know what it was with all of these guys doing multiple monster movies, but apparently it paid because
Yeah, yeah.
these guys did a
Well,
bunch.
a lot of them, and they do this in the modern era sometimes, but not too often. Samuel L. Jackson is an example of this, where he signed like a 10 movie deal with Disney or whomever owned it, or blah, blah, blah. But like the same was happening with Universal and whatever. They would sign them to like giant multi movie deals, and so they were like, in order for them to get out of the contract, they had to get into as many movies as they could, and they're like, when they did them fast, they made more money, and then they can get out of that contract or get a bigger contract or whatever.
Yeah,
And so that might play into it. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. But I just love the idea of the Wolfman is just very like ominous and very creepy.
Yeah.
that original film, well, there's some special effects that like maybe like, don't hold up so good. But, like the acting is incredible.
Yeah, it's
The music is very I don't there's something about vintage film where the music makes you feel a different level. And that's why I like John Williams so much because it still does this. But like with new age music, you do get a feel like the scores are really good still. Like there's still innovations in music, but like there's something about a vintage orchestra that plays these scores for these vintage films that just like really drive the emotion of the scene because there's not all this excess, there's not all this CGI, there's not all these crazy costumes in some cases, there's not all these set pieces. It's like a guy in a field in black and white. What's
yeah.
the emotion? And they play that, which is like really really good. I really liked the music that goes along with that, and it's just the tension is there, the suspense is there. It's a very good film.
Yeah, and it's what's interesting about it, it has like there's a love story, there's like a murder mystery, there's a scientific thing going on, there's a curse element, and like you said, also we have Lon Chaney Jr., Bela Lugosi is in it, Walt Bellamy, who's in a lot of stuff, including one of my favorite comedies of all time, Trading Places or Trading Spaces, which is it?
Trading places.
Yeah, yeah. Eddie Murphy,
Trading
I think.
Spaces was a TLC show.
No, so but that's actually one of my top five Christmas movies, but we'll get into that
Yeah,
closer to the holidays.
yeah.
But yeah, it's and actually Lon Chaney, he's actually the only actor to have played all of the major monsters.
Huh.
So he played Dracula, he played the Wolfman, he played the Mummy, and he played
Frankenstein's monster.
Frankenstein monster. Yeah. So he played
Whoa.
all. He's the only guy who's ever done it.
Okay, that's so
Yeah.
interesting. And he looks like it too. Like he has such the face of like this creepy monster guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and not that it's, not it's also a monster, but he was in the original Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is also kind of a monster in and of itself. He played the Hunchback. He played Quasimodo in the Hunchback. Like his whole thing was doing monster movie.
Yeah. And he had a weird thing. His dad was an actor, and his mom was it she committed suicide.
Wow.
There's like a lot of stuff, and he had a hard time actually like kind of being in that role. And I think when he found his role, and but he had a lot of roles like in a lot of other genres that people don't even like know about.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for back in that time, there's so many. I feel like, unfortunately, there's a lot of lost films. There's a
Yeah,
lot of films that people just don't have access to, which is one of the reasons. A lot of people say streaming is tanking the movie theaters, and to some extent that is true. But one of the benefits of streaming is that there's a lot of movies that people, even with the existence of the library, will just never be able to find. And so it's
yeah.
really cool. Some of these streaming services like Tubi. Tubi is a great one. HBO here and there, but there's a lot of classic films on Tubi, and a lot of those films are films that could be lost to time if people aren't like aware of them because like they're on legitimate film. Like they're on
Yeah.
like actual film that they have to then put in digital. And a lot of these films get lost to time.
Well, and a lot of them they get corroded.
Yeah,
So
literally
what a
lost
lot of
to
people
time.
Yeah, like what a lot of people at home might not know is that I had the experience working. I did some work on some commercials and did some work in whatever and some making a film but like you have to store some of that like actual film stuff in like refrigerators. So like
Okay.
I knew people that like they had a refrigerator in their basement and it was just holding old
Wow.
films, you know? And like if you don't store them properly, I don't remember the reasoning and whatever the how it corrodes and da da
Yeah.
da, but like it will like literally, like you said, disintegrate and be lost to time. Certainly. So it's like so you have and you actually and to their credit, to like guys like Spielberg and other people who yeah they're worth a zillion dollars, but a lot of them are putting a lot of their money into like restoring and protecting old films that they will dissolve at some point unless they're really meticulously maintained. And
Yeah.
so, a lot. So even though I can be highly critical of lots of people that have in Hollywood that have lots of money, and there's all kinds of stuff to be critical of them for, but like there are those that are like trying to do something to help preserve part of like our collective society, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Cool.
I did want to mention, if I
Yeah,
could, that the Wolfman and werewolves is actually one of the oldest like myths and legends in the history of the world.
I believe it.
So one of the first like stories that we still have access to in our collective human history is the Epic of Gilgamesh. And that was like 4 or 5 thousand years ago. There's a story of a werewolf in there.
Yeah, yeah, I read it in high school. It's really cool.
Yeah. So it's like you have like so like you have the Mummy where they just like went off of like what was going on in the world at the time, whatever. And then you have like these like myths and legends that go back so far. And I think, and this is what I kind of wanted to talk about today more than anything, was like the deep effect that these monsters have on our psychic or our psychosis, our inner whatever. And I think because they've just been in our story structure of human beings for so many thousands of years that it's like it's I don't have the fear of wolves, but like there is like a little bit of a like you see the wolf and you're like, oh, no one's going to transform into a wolf. I get that. But at the same time, somehow it just keeps popping up and popping up and
Yeah,
popping up. Whereas like the Mummy doesn't pop up as much.
no.
Like the ones that have been in our human history for so long, they resonate. Even if it's a good or a bad movie, they do resonate. They come back, and the vampire stuff comes back again and again and
Yeah.
again, and it's fascinating to me how that happens.
No, that is very fascinating. I think it's really I think it's another reason as to why those movies never go away and people just keep trying to remake them or retouch on them or
Right. Yeah.
retell the story. Yeah, it's very fascinating that it not only is it like movies, but it's books, it's music, it's history. Even if it's not necessarily the monsters are real, but like it's history
Right.
that there are civilizations that have myths about these characters or types of these characters. The Wolfman for sure. And there's like I think they did a Benicio del Toro did a Wolfman movie.
With Anthony Hopkins.
Yes, which the movie is okay. I think it's a solid
Okay.
movie, but the scene where he turns into a wolf for like the first time in front of all those guys, like looking around, they're all like doctors, like looking at an
Yeah.
operation. That's a good scene. That's a really
Yeah. It
good
was
scene.
really well done.
Really well done. The rest of the movie, that's okay. But that scene is like, whoa, like what? So there are like, yeah, I think you're right that there's a mental there's like a mental side of watching these films that adds a
Well,
scariness to the characters on top of whatever they do with the film itself because there's already like a you go into it kind of unnerved because you know the story, you know the back, and they could tell you a brand new story but you still know the story, like you're still
yeah.
like I know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna walk like it's yeah.
Well, it sort of makes me think because in a couple years ago, there's a theory about the having a genetic memory, and they have proven it scientifically with mice. And so, for instance, you have some mouse, whatever, they eat a thing and it makes them feel terrible or it kills off one of their mice friends or whatever. Now with mice, because they have a very short lifespan, you can have generational. So you can have 7, 10, 12 generations within a 10-year experiment.
Yeah.
And they found that the mice, that something happened to one of their relatives generations ago, they have an unnatural fear of that thing, even though they had never encountered it in their modern little life.
Huh.
And so there's a lot of people that they look about like why people have like a fear of snakes that they shouldn't have, which we know some people that might have fear of
Yeah.
snakes. And things that like we're just like people are like, why are you like crazily like what is it about this that is affecting you? And I think there's something like you were just talking about, the through line or the thread that is from history. And I think a lot of that has to do with genetic memory, which is like, whether it's digging some up, you hear about someone being dug up from a grave and they're coming back to life, or someone who's running with wolves, or they get bitten by some animal and now they're running there and they're like, but you've heard of it for thousands of years. And so it just is that kernel is in your head. And, so we watch a movie now, even though we know, oh, it's not true. but yet it gets you still.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. That's very, I've not thought about that. That's very interesting. That's very interesting, especially when it comes to these monster movies, because, not that those are real monsters, but they're definitely based on mythology, and who knows what those are based on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always feel like in every story, every stereotype, every whatever, there's something that is linked to some element of the truth, even if it's exaggerated or whatever. It just brings you back into something that it is based on something. Like the you could talk about religion, you could talk about the Noah's Ark and the flood myth, and then but actually if you start digging deep and you look at like 10, 12 different places around the world, they all have in their literature the some giant event happened where across the world there was giant flooding that happened. Now, what that means, at the end of the day is different, but like, when you have these myths based on something in truth, I don't know, it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. It's really interesting. So we got three down. We have two of the big ones left.
Oh, by the way, we can't just talk about the Wolfman without giving a giant shout out to Teen Wolf.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that Teen Wolf, Michael J.
It's a
Fox, is
classic.
so
Or
good.
a Werewolf in London.
Werewolf in London, Werewolf
Also
in
good.
Paris,
Also good.
Silver Bullet with Gary Busey and the late Corey Haim, which is before your
Yeah,
time
no,
for
I've not
sure.
seen that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Before we get to those, the final two, did you want to touch on King Kong maybe? Because yeah.
Ah,
What do you have as far everyone knows the story of King Kong, and there's like there's multiple different iterations, but what maybe is like your favorite iteration? Like what do you have on King Kong?
um, well, it's kind of interesting because like we're thinking about like the big four, Dracula, the Mummy, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman for the big Halloween, big classic monsters. And then I was sort of thinking about like just something didn't quite. I felt like we are missing something. And then I don't know. I was rewatching The Wolfman a couple days ago, and I remember I was thinking black and white. The when the wolf he starts transferring. What do you got? Is there something there? What's over in the other room? What's going
No,
on?
it's funny. My wife snuck in to like pour herself some wine, and she just like when she left the room, she just kind of went. So,
Uh no, yeah, no. That's what you do when you sneak wine. You go. "Oh." So yes, I was just thinking about the stop motion where they're doing the with the Wolfman when they do the when they basically they sat him down, the Wolfman, when they
yeah.
shot the film, and they shot like one picture, and they kept adding the makeup to show the transformation.
Ah, that's cool.
And that made me think about the King Kong because a lot of that was like sort of stop motion animation in some areas. And then I was like, wait a second, what? We have to include King Kong as a monster from the 1930s, 1931, 32.
Yeah.
And so,
And
I mean,
we did for those who are like, where you have King Kong, where's Godzilla? Godzilla is so we thought Godzilla should have its own podcast of some kind. So
yeah.
we'll come back to that at a later date.
And I think we'll probably do a pod just on the King Kong.
Yeah, the Kongverse.
Now there's a lot of I
Yeah.
mean, obviously there was a lot of movies anyway, and now there's a lot of modern movies, so
Yeah.
that's a whole pod in its own.
Yeah.
But I actually like the in terms of King Kong, I really enjoyed Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well made, and I think it didn't get the just desserts that it should have got.
Yeah.
But in terms of the fun element of it, I really have enjoyed the modern King Kong universe or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it.
The Kongverse. Yeah. I have a funny story about King Kong. My brothers and I were deciding what we wanted to watch one night, and we were like, let's watch King Kong. We haven't seen the Peter Jackson one. And so you had to rent it on Amazon. And so my dad comes down. We're like, Dad, here's a couple bucks, whatever. Like, we're gonna rent this movie. So he puts in his codes because it's his Amazon, whatever. He rents it. And there's like a warning that comes up on the screen. Hey, this is a 24-hour rental or something. And we didn't know this movie was like 3.5 hours. Like, this is a long movie. Like, Peter Jackson movies are not short. This is a long movie. And we're watching this movie and we're like, I think we need to pause it. We need to go to bed. Like, this is like late. We're tired, whatever. So we go back tomorrow. And for whatever reason, we missed the 24-hour window. And
Oh
they
no!
made us rent it again. And my dad, like, maybe bleep this out, but my dad goes, "Those bastards!" Like he was just very like, and like my dad does not swear at all, and so like when he
No.
does, it's like, oh, that is hilarious, and it was just he was very angry at the Amazon people for being so miserly over their $2.99. But yeah, no, that movie is great. I think I love that movie so much because Jack Black has a serious role and he does it to such great effect. Like that whole movie is so wonderfully acted by everyone, but Jack Black and then Andy Serkis plays a regular dude too, on top of
And he
and he
played King
played King
Kong on top
Kong.
of it.
Yeah, in the motion capture. Um, and I think it'd be cool to do a whole movie or a whole podcast on like motion capture because there's so many like ways
Yeah,
of that iterations of that have been impressive to talk about in and of itself.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but yeah, no, that King Kong is great. Um, and I love the story of King Kong. Like it's there's that whole phrase, "'Twas beauty that killed the beast." Like I love that phrase. Like that's such a
Yeah,
cool phrase that like there's and I talked about the earlier when you were talking about the Invisible Man and I talked about like the monster being inside. And that's a weird like flip of that where like hey, just because someone looks or something looks like a monster on the outside doesn't mean that it doesn't have inside like this giant heart or like motives that you don't understand. Like Kong just
right.
fell in love with this woman and like or has some like some respect, some revere for this woman, and no one can understand that. And they just like, oh, he's taking this woman, like he's terrorizing the town, like we gotta kill this Kong, like whatever. And it's very interesting that it's this love story in a weird mangled like way, and it does that flip because usually it's like that just this there's like ugly on the inside and the outside is maybe not what you but this is a flip
Right.
of that. This is interesting.
Well, it's the other big theme or whatever that I was fascinated by when I was thinking about the whole genre for this pod was like not just the through lines that were going on, but also a lot of it has to do with like love.
Yeah.
Like even the Mummy, there's an element of a love story there. With the Wolfman, there's love. With Dracula, there's a weird sort of what do you call it, love, I'm not sure, but like there's and with Frankenstein, even like he's a like a lot of these creatures, not Dracula quite as much, but a lot of them are just like these misunderstood creatures that are like trying to they have these human instincts and like love and curiosity and
Yeah.
whatever. Like Frankenstein, what I found about Frankenstein, we'll talk about that more in a second, but like yeah, we'll say that for a second,
Yeah.
but like eh, like these
Well,
creatures, these
why don't we
characters.
do that? Why don't we segue into Frankenstein then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like what I found about Frankenstein when I rewatched it last week, and like Frankenstein was like this he was a creation, but at the same time, once he was active and walking around, he was curious and he was not friendly, but not unfriendly. He was trying to figure things out, and it wasn't until humans really started to be abusive to him that he started to find like an anger element, and then a lot of the movie he was just trying to like escape and get, and I know
Understand.
Guillermo talks about this when because he's wanted to make, and I know he has a Frankenstein movie coming out and he's wanted to make that forever. But like there's a sad quality to Frankenstein of like this the monster that like just wants to be human and be loved, and like he's driven away.
There's a beauty there, like a weird gothic beauty to the idea of trying to find complete understanding in every facet of life, not just like human interaction, but like there's a in the original Frankenstein movie, there's a scene where he's like on the bank of the water with the little girl.
Oh, it's a beautiful scene
Beautiful.
where the girl
Beautiful.
gives him a
Yeah,
flower
gives him a
and
flower. And I remember watching that in middle school, high school. Like they had I think it was middle school, 8th grade. They had us watch that and that scene is like and it's tragic because that girl ends up dying.
yeah.
But
I
but
mean, spoiler alert.
yeah, sorry for a film
It's only been out for 90
90
something years.
something years. I'm sorry. But yeah, but that like that's such a beautiful scene and it really shows the especially for that movie that's so that old. It's not just like trying to like that movie slows down and really shows you writing and good acting and like the
Yeah.
complete it's not just a monster movie where the monster's going crazy and the people have pitchforks. It slows
Right.
down and it shows you the humanization of this monster, and I do like that. And I think I haven't seen it yet, obviously, but I'm very excited to see it. I think Guillermo's version highlights a lot of the beauty in the muck, in the mire. It highlights a lot of like the softness, the stillness, more so than like the raw. Like I think there's a lot of raw too, but it seems like and he does this a lot, like Shape of Water, very same thing,
Yeah. Beautiful.
highlighting beautiful in the weird.
Yeah. 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 Do you know how the Frankenstein story, like its origins?
I don't know if I do. Enlighten me.
Right. So in around 1920 or so, there was 1915, 1920, something like that. There was a volcano exploded
Okay.
in Indonesia, Malaysia, somewhere, I don't know. But like in 1918 or 19, whatever it was, or 1819, it was called the Year Without a Summer.
Huh. Okay.
And so because of the clouds from the volcano, everything was dark and gloomy. In fact, in New York City in June, they had snow.
Whoa.
Yeah. So at that point, in the middle of that year, Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, poet, and a couple of people, they were like on like a sort of a holiday, and they decided to, like, they're all writers and they wanted, like, let's all write ghost stories. And in that moment, Mary Shelley, who she had actually just lost her first child, she was having these very strange dreams, whatever, and her short story that she was working on with these friends by the lake turned into the novel Frankenstein. And Lord Byron, who is a very, very famous poet and everything, he wrote some stuff that didn't really go a lot of places. Another poet there, he wrote his thing. And then Lord Byron, who is the most famous of the group, he was like, he had tons of books published and everything, and he was well known in England. And he had a personal physician who apparently you just travel with a personal physician. His personal
They did that
physician
back in
wrote,
the day.
right, yeah, back in the day you got to have that. His personal physician decided he's going to write his own little story, and he wrote what is the basis for what later was the inspiration for Dracula. So
Interesting.
he wrote a short story called The Vampire.
Okay.
And then later on, like 50 years later, that was an inspiration for Bram Stoker to write his version Dracula.
Okay. Okay. That's
So
so
that's how the
cool. That's
Frankenstein thing
wild.
happened.
That's so
Yeah.
wild. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So you could actually argue, and I'm sure people have, and I'm not going to do it here, but like that, like the first, or one of the first major authors of horror was this woman who, her I don't know if it was her brother, but Percy Shelley was a very famous poet, and this is his, I think, his sister. And she became obviously like even way more famous than he did, but like, yeah, it's amazing how that whole, I don't know.
That's
I,
on the.
there was a movie made of there's a couple movies made of that weekend or whatever, or week they had together writing this stuff. One of them starring like Gabriel Byrne and some other great actors, and Julian Sands, I think, maybe, worth looking into for those of you who are interested in that kind of,
Fascinating. On the topic of Mary Shelley, so obviously there's like, the classic Frankenstein with why am I blanking on his name? Boris Karloff.
Oh,
But there's one of the ones that is very argued about, which would be Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein with Robert De Niro.
oh yeah.
A lot of people.
By the way, I do want to get back to Karloff after we done with
Sure,
this.
sure. That movie has a lot of mixed reviews. There's a lot of good in that version, and there's a lot of like, all right, De Niro as the monster is an interesting take, but it also like it kind of works.
It's a good movie, I
Yeah,
think.
I like it. I think it's very, I don't know. I like that film. I think it's like panned by some people and loved by some people, so like it's a good mix. But I think that's most monster movies. I feel like most people are like,
Well, right. 'Cause people, like, they get too close to sometimes you get too close to a subject, you're a little, like, you're not subjective anymore, like, I mean, Kenneth Branagh is an amazing director. He also stars in the film as Dr. Frankenstein, but like De Niro's in it. Who else is in it? Helena Bonham Carter, Ian Holm, John
yeah,
Cleese. It's just I think it's a very well done film, as a remake.
yeah. And then
sort
and
of.
then I had two spin-off of the genres, or the genre I should say, that I really enjoy.
I have one. I wonder if you came up with one of the same. Go ahead.
Young Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Young Frankenstein. Like it's yes,
Mel
master.
Brooks classic.
That is a classic. Putting on the Ritz. It's a classic
Beautiful.
retelling of the story, but in a
Mhm.
comedy spoof. It's just you can't even. There's not even words to describe how awesome that movie is.
Just that one scene with Gene Hackman, who played like a guy, and he keeps setting like the monster's thumb on fire, and he's trying to like drink the beer, and he keeps smashing the mug, and
And shout out Marty Feldman. I think is
oh,
yeah.
so good.
Gone Too Soon. He can be on a podcast of actors that were gone too soon. Had a he was blessed to be cursed. His look was very strange as an individual, but in the movies they made him a legend. I absolutely love that movie. The music is great. I love Gene Wilder is just so brilliant.
Yeah, I think he is maybe the most underrated comedic film actor of all time. Just saying it.
I could see it. I could see it. I could
You know.
see it. The second project that I wanted to mention is the Frankenstein Chronicles. I don't know if you've ever seen that or heard of it, but it stars Sean Bean and it is an interesting fake prequel. Not prequel. It's a fake inspiration of Frankenstein
Hmm.
because Mary Shelley is an actual character in the show. Basically, Sean Bean plays this detective, John Marlowe, and it takes place, back when Mary Shelley was alive. So, like, back in the day. Um, and he's a detective that is brought in by Scotland Yard, I think, and they are wanting him to look into this conundrum of bodies that have been reanimated and are showing up. And it's like a serial killer slash whodunit with reanimation as the theme. And Mary Shelley is one of the people that lives in London. And
When was this?
he's
I mean, roughly.
23,
Oh, okay. Okay.
2010. Yeah, it's a BBC show. Really good. There's only like 12 episodes. I think there's 6 episodes in each season, only 2 seasons. Really, really good. I love that very much. But uh, it's like an off-brand Frankenstein, and it kind of serves as like wonder if this is like it's like fake inspiration for a story that's not real. It was very interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I liked that a lot. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add about Frankenstein? I know you wanted to talk about Boris Karloff real quick.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was like the couple things that I was sort of when I was doing some research, like his Frankenstein role was his eighth.
Huh.
Right. So like everyone's like, oh, Barb, that's where he got his start, and it's like, nah, like he had done like a zillion films before he even got to that point. And the other little bit of just trivia, which was kind of cool, was that his aunt. So for those that don't know, Boris Karloff is actually like part Indian, and
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a little bit of that there. And so his aunt worked in India in the court of Siam, and her tales were published in a novel called Anna and the King of Siam, which was turned into The King and I.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So it's
fascinating.
just, and then also for those that don't know Boris Karloff, he voices the role of the Grinch in The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. So
Came without packages, boxes, and bags. Yeah.
yeah.
Just it's great. Boris Karloff, another fun film. If it's not Halloween related at all, so don't like whatever.
Yeah.
But if you've never seen it, I know you've had to have seen it, but you're one of the biggest Danny Kaye fans. But there is a movie called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. The
Hmm.
original. There's an original with Danny Kaye. The remake is really good if you haven't seen it. But the original with Danny Kaye, Boris Karloff is in it, and he plays a guy, but he's like super creepy, and it's like I don't know. I just like that's one of my favorite Boris Karloff movies. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and then also shoot, well, I'll be sure he's in this too. Maybe he's not. Okay, he's not. But okay, I was going to mention just as like an aside. It's not a monster movie, but if you're looking at Halloween, Arsenic and Old Lace is another classic to watch. I just thought of Peter Lorre because he looks kind of like a monster.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll mention then because we'll get to the big one in a second here, but like I'm not going to talk about it a lot because it's been a long time since I've seen it. But I think in the monster movie classics, we got to at least include The Creature from the Black Lagoon,
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
and I think even like people would argue with that. They would put that up more than my next thing, but I think The Abominable Snowman
Okay. Okay. I'd put that up there.
because there was a 1950 something movie called The Abominable Snowman, and it's a black and white film, and it Peter Cushing again. We get back to him again.
Legend.
Is in that, and it's super creepy, black and white, snowy. It's I think one of the best films for monster movies to watch in the winter, up there with The Thing.
Oh yeah. The
But
Thing is great.
yeah,
I think we could do a whole like not Halloween monster, but just like monster movie podcast of like that kind of thing. Because like another one I would throw out there, which I don't know if it has it's I don't know, it's not necessarily a living being, but kind of the Blob.
oh yeah, like there's a lot from the
Like
50s that like
Steve
are like
McQueen and the Blob, that movie rocks. I watched that last year or the year before. That movie's great.
yeah,
Yeah. But the number one that we have to bring up is Dracula.
Dracula.
Dracula. We're going to leave vampires as a subject alone because outside of the confines of Dracula, because there's so many different
Yeah.
vampire things that we might just want to make our own podcast about vampires where we can talk about
No.
Sinners after you watch it. But I told you every podcast till you see it, I'm bringing it up. But
And to piggyback back on your point again, like we could talk about like the Mummy,
yeah,
and there's only so many films we could talk about the Mummy, but with vampires, there's just
so
so
many,
many iterations and
so many.
versions, and every single decade has so many. So that will be a podcast in the future, like all of that.
Yeah.
So we're going to focus a little bit on the original and maybe some, a few things from that. But
Yeah, but this
I
is
mean,
this is mainly just Dracula because like without Dracula, I don't think you get a lot of other vampire movies. I don't think you
right. Yeah.
don't think you get the Twilights. You don't get Sinners. You don't get I'm blanking on a couple more, but there's like
30
you
Days of
don't get
Night.
30 Days a Night.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
You
whatever.
don't get Interview with a Vampire. You don't get any of these
Right.
because Dracula is like the definitive like whoa.
Yeah.
And you were touching on the
Oh,
origins.
pop quiz. Do you know where Bela Lugosi was born?
Yes, because shoot, what the heck? When you tell me, I'm going to say yes, I knew that, but I'm blanking on it.
Hungary.
Hungary. Yes, yes. The reason I
Yeah.
know that, well, knew it is that my I was like saying his name, and my wife was like correcting me because it's like Bela. I was
Yeah.
saying Bella, and she was like, it's Bela. Like it's like because it's a Hungarian.
Yeah, it has like a little bit of an Italian feel though,
Yeah,
unless you like know its origins. But also still you say Bella because I don't care.
yeah.
But like, so I want to talk about Bella just for a second because I
Please
want to
do.
give him a little bit of like props. So
Yeah.
like, for those that don't know, so he was in like 175 plays before he even like started with anything else. So he was in he did like in Hungary. So he was a well-established thing. And then World War I happened, and he actually went to war in World War I and was injured, and then had to escape persecution. And eventually he actually did a play about Dracula, and then eventually when they were going to make it into a film, they wanted to cast him as it, and that was one of the reasons he was typecast, was because of his heavy Hungarian accent. Not that he could be a great actor, but it was his heavy accent. And then later on he had a lot of problems with like his injury, and he ended up getting addicted to various things because of the pain. And
He was in like 315 films.
yeah, just incredible.
Nuts. That's nuts. Especially considering what you said about being in plays before that. Like it wasn't just like he started in film and he ended in film. He started in theater and he probably did like close to 800 to 900 projects in total between the two.
I think if I remember correctly, I think he went off on his own to be an actor at like the age of 14 or something.
Wow.
Like crazy young. Yeah.
And when people do, like, obviously the book was first, like, the subject material, but like
Yeah.
when people do Dracula, they do Bela Lugosi's version, like the "I want to suck your blood," like
Yeah.
that's they do like he's the guy. That's the version that everyone bases their Dracula on.
And it's so the ambiance in that movie and with him, like I said earlier, like I've been rewatching the stuff over the last couple weeks, and I was watching in the first, not the first scene, but like when they get to Dracula's castle, and like what's the guy's name? Renfield?
Renfield,
Renfield?
yeah,
Yeah. So Renfield, he's in there and he gets in there and he doesn't see Dracula, and Dracula's coming down this stairwell so slow. And at first, at first I was like, oh, that's not a real castle. And then I was like watching him, like, I don't know where they're filming this, but this is a giant castle. If it's a set, it's a great set. And he's moving so slow. And then when he finally turns around and sees him, and Dracula's right there, and he's just like, I can't remember what his hands were doing, but he was just like,
yeah, yeah,
and he just starts talking to, oh, just so good. It's
yeah.
so good.
Yeah, which adds to the same and black and white, and you can see everything. It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
dark, and that's what just it makes it even creepier.
It's like when Dracula gets to London and he's walking around, he's a top hat and the whole thing. And like, it's like they don't have to put a lot of special effects and stuff around it because it's so grainy that it's like this murky background is
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, and then obviously you have your iterations of the story going forward. I just watched it recently for the first time, which is the wonderful Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. Francis Ford Coppola, I
Francis
think.
Ford Coppola directed it. Yeah, with Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing and the ever awesome Gary Oldman as Count
He,
Orlok.
yeah, he's so great.
Just, just
And, Monica Bellucci, who is a cameo,
yes,
as
yes,
a very, very hot cameo, but I should say.
yeah.
But I think they did it. They
Blah
did
blah
a
blah.
great justice for the original, I think.
Yeah,
And it has to be Gary Oldman. I mean, it's just he just from the old Orlok to no one ever in the history of his career has said Gary Oldman is good looking. But when you put him in that with his top hat and his monocles and the whole thing, he's like a good looking dude.
yeah.
And he's not known for that. He's not
Right.
known for being that lead. He was actually looked pretty good in the Harry Potter movies actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he can wear that long hair really well.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
he's a long hair dude. You look
Yeah.
pretty good with long hair. You can wear it. There's only a couple of dudes that can do that. I think he.
And by the way, for the audience that doesn't know, when Noah had long hair for a short stint in his life, he looked him. I gotta give props. All him and all his brothers have always looked really good with long hair. None of them have long hair anymore, but they all look great with it.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I like my long hair. I kind of grow it back during the winter, so we'll see if I grow it back. But yeah,
It depends on how long you let it go. If you let it go even longer, I
yeah,
think it's even better. But that's
we'll
just,
see. We'll see.
I might have
Yeah. Yeah, Dracula, I think like it I think it's interesting because other monsters don't inspire new creations necessarily. Like Frankenstein inspires other Frankenstein movies.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Wolfman inspires other Wolfman movies, but Dracula inspires a whole genre of vampire films. It inspires a whole storyline of things that are based on the idea but have nothing to do with the original source material.
right,
Which I think
yeah.
is so interesting it's so that's why it's like the number one of like
Well, right. And because and it goes back to what we were talking about a couple times already, that the through line from humanity about like and I think this is also like the fascination with the undead stuff, zombies, all that kind of stuff, where there's so many different iterations of it. And the Walking Dead, the vampire undead, it goes back for thousands of years. And so I think it's so intermixed and intertwined into our humanity
yeah,
that like we're constantly fascinated. Well, also we're fascinated with um the undead. Like
yeah.
what is there after life, and that there's a human element, there's a religious element, there's like we're just fascinated by it and what it could mean. And then obviously, they've done comedies, they've done musicals, they've done everything in that genre. But I think it's because the Dracula movie
And
was so spectacular.
zombies will probably get their own pod for anyone who's like,
Oh,
where are the
yeah. Well, but
zombies?
that's why
They will
yeah.
get their own pod, I guarantee you.
Well, because also it's one, and here's what I thought about this a little bit. It's one of the few monsters that doesn't have like,
Doesn't have
um,
a figurehead.
it doesn't have a figurehead.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's not like Steve the zombie. That's like,
Right,
it's like,
yeah. It's like every other one has like an OG,
yeah.
but zombies. I mean, like I didn't do a deep dive into it too much, but I was
There's
racking
no
my brain. I was
original
like,
figurehead. No, no. That's interesting. Yeah, that's true. Of the monsters that are like, what? Oh, I'm a zombie. Cool. Which one? Like, there's no, you're just a zombie. There's never our XYZ. It's just a
yeah,
zombie, which is interesting. And when people are like, I got my big break, I'm a zombie. What's up? I'm a zombie. Like,
yeah.
it's just,
Not the zombie,
no,
not the
not the zombie.
zombie.
It's never the zombie. Even in movies with a zombie, like there, it's never the zombie. It's
Yeah,
like a zombie or zombies plural, which is interesting.
yeah. It's only in literature, and we'll talk about this in another pod about. But there are some literature elements or references that like there are like zombie leaders
Yeah.
that, and in literature work really well. But like I just don't think it's been done on the big screen
No,
in
it'd
any
be
particular
interesting
way.
to tackle that though.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Anything else to bring up as far as monsters before we start to wrap up this pod? I think we touched on a lot.
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
think we touched a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. To close it out, we always do something I've watched recently and or something that I'm excited to watch coming up. So what is something you've either watched recently or that you're excited to watch coming up?
Well, all of these movies that I've watched recently.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, because there was like I'd seen like some of them. Some of them like it's a little bit weird. Like you feel you've seen it, and then you're watching. You're like, either I've never watched it, or I've seen so many snippets of it that I thought I had watched
Yeah.
it, and I hadn't.
Sure.
No, but I just watched a movie called I don't think I mentioned this before. It's called The State of Play.
Okay. Okay. I've
It's
heard
with
of it. I've never seen it though.
yeah, Russell Crowe, who plays like an investigative journalist, and Helen Mirren, Ben Affleck, Jeff Daniels. It's in Washington. It's political.
Is that the one about smoking?
Smoking?
I swear Russell Crowe does a movie about smoking. There's like he's like I don't know. I'll look it up. But
Well, yeah, yeah. Oh,
continue.
yeah. Forget about it. Yeah. So I watched that, and it's really good. It's just like a detective movie, but it's not detective. It's
Oh,
an investigative.
okay. The Insider. He's
Oh, yeah. That was
Big
yeah,
Tobacco. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
yeah.
I got you.
Big Tobacco. Yeah. And yeah. So what have you watched recently?
So I was sitting the other day and I realized, I think I was talking to you on the last pod maybe, or just that I had never seen the Predator films aside from the first one.
Right.
So I went back. I'd seen the first one not recently, but like recent enough that it's like once you've seen it, you need a good 10, maybe 15 years or maybe 5 years at minimum to kind of like reset.
Do you have a good Schwarzenegger from the film?
Get to the chopper! Come on! You are one ugly mother. Yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah. I love that movie so much.
Carl Weathers. What's the guy's name who was shaving his head throughout the whole movie? Well, don't look it up. Don't look. I can't remember it. Yeah. Yeah. Carl Weathers, the big Indian dude. Wow. Yeah. Such a great movie.
Hold up, let me look it up because I'm curious. Predator.
Bill Duke.
Yes, that's the name.
See,
Yeah.
I am faster than your fingers on Google.
You are.
Ha-ha.
Congrats. But I went back and I realized I hadn't watched. So now I'm going through and I'm watching all the Predator movies. And I watched Predator 2, and that rocks. That is dope. I love Glover. Glover is so good. He's
Danny Glover is he's
national
like,
treasure.
Yeah,
National
really
treasure. And any movie he does is like at least good. I've like not seen like an awful movie with his. I'm sure they exist, but like he's so good in that movie and just like Like I could do a whole podcast on Danny Glover, but like he's phenomenal in that movie. And then Gary Busey just and why am I forgetting his name? He just passed away. Bill. Is it Bill?
Oh, Bill Pullman.
No, not Pullman.
His sister.
Paxton. Bill Paxton. Yeah. Bill Paxton was so good in that. It's funny because Bill Paxton is in Aliens, the second one. So he's in Aliens 2 and Predator 2, which is really fun.
Yep.
He's got to be, I like coming up with lists that don't matter at all. And as far as lists that don't matter at all, he's got to be one of the only guys who's been in the sequel to an original action movie.
He was also in Tombstone.
Okay. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
He's been in a lot of films as like
He's
yeah.
rest in peace because he died too early. But that movie was so good. Gary Busey, Bill Paxton, and it was cool because
Maureen Shada, what is her name? Well,
yeah. But
Alonso. I think
yeah.
that's it.
But it's really cool to see the Predator come to the city, and do all that. And then I watched 2010. I watched Predators, which was nuts.
Was that the Adrian Brody version?
Adrian Brody, and they've also got Topher Grace, and we just talked about him in The Matrix not too long ago, but it also has Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh yeah.
Great movie. I think that it's really rare that you have 3 films in the action genre that are all pretty, like, you can't touch the first one as far as like classic lines, but as far as like content, they're about all the same and they're about all awesome.
Yeah. Well, what's sort of funny is that, like, obviously, without going too big of a tangent, but like Predator was such a big movie because it's Schwarzenegger and all the stuff, but like it's unlike the Alien movies, because they all trying to link them and mesh them somehow together with the origins or whatever. But like, and the Predator movies don't try and do that, and I think sometimes the critics and sometimes even the fans don't get the fact that they're kind of unrelated except for just the monster that shows up occasionally. And so like you have in the jungle, you have downtown LA, you have this other thing, one of the newest versions, they're like a young Native American woman. There's just it's all over the place. And there's one in Antarctica, and people are like, oh, it's terrible, but it's like, if you take it as a standalone movie,
I'm halfway through Alien versus Predator, and I'm actually enjoying it. It's really good so far.
I think that I was more critical of it when I was like thinking, but they're not related and da da da. And then once I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, wait, it's okay if they're not related.
Yeah.
They're just having fun with a monster movie that's like, there's a theme with the monster, but each one is different. And they have a little bit of connection, but not as much as like the Alien stuff.
Yeah, and I like it. But I've been really enjoying those, and I hope to continue those. I think I have 3 left, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And then
what are you looking forward to seeing?
I am looking forward, and we were talking about this, so we can maybe both talk about it briefly. But the new Running Man movie that's coming out looks really good. Yeah, I think we're gonna try to see that together in theaters when we're around for Thanksgiving. So that'll be really cool.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's one of those films that, like, obviously it's a Schwarzenegger movie, so it's going to be more scrutinized. But like, even back in the day, I don't think a lot of us that saw it were like, it was a little cheesy. It didn't quite have the special effects or the budget or whatever. It was still a fine, like a not fine movie, but like it was just like an action film.
Yeah.
And I think, and maybe it looks like it might go a little overboard, but I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. But yeah, so I'm not a big fan of remakes, but when you think about it, 2025, if that came out in 85, so like 25, 35, 40 years later, you can remake a movie, I guess. No, I'm against remakes largely, but like when it's 40 years out, you can kind of make an argument for it.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, this has been another episode of the Great Movie Pod. If you have made it all the way to the end, thank you. Make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Turn on the post notifications wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube, hello. Thanks for watching our cool costumes and our conversation on here. Make sure you hit the notification button. Same with Spotify and with Apple Music, because it helps the algorithm to know what you like and it will feed you more of our stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. The dude divides.
The dude abides.